everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's reading list, and this week we're just reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. That's it. Well, and Count of Monte Cristo, but like mainly Dungeon Crawler Carl. So let's get into it because I'm really excited. This vlog and the next week and the next vlog are like kind of themed just because of how my TBR shook out. And yeah, I just decided to do it this way. It makes the most sense in my brain, and it also means that I will accomplish something that I've been wanting to do for like probably like half my life and just haven't, which is to read Les Mis. But that's next week's vlog. So for this week, the fourth book of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series was on my February TBR. And then my spinning wheel, when I was putting together, because I wanted to see, like, Les Mis was on my February TBR as well, and I just had a feeling it would come up. Maybe like a week and a half ago, I went ahead and just spun my spinning wheel with my TBR on it, as well as the series that I'm reading, which includes Dungeon Crawler Carl, to see when am I reading Les Mis. So I wrote down the order that the spinning wheel gave, and it landed on Dungeon Crawler Carl for the fourth book, and then it also landed on Dungeon Crawler Carl again. So, and then it landed on Les Mis. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to shuffle the order around slightly, and we're going to have a Dungeon Crawler Carl vlog. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the series. I am only going to read the fourth and fifth books because I would like to start Les Mis before February ends. And that's just not going to happen if I have to read like 2,000 pages, because the fourth book is like almost 600 pages and I think the fifth book is like 800. So this will only be the fourth and fifth books. There still won't be spoilers, but hopefully it'll still be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm so excited. So I did start reading the fourth book, which is The Gate of the Feral Gods, yesterday. I read about 220 pages because, for people who don't know, I don't make that many decisions. I let spinning wheels, I let coins, I let Siri, like I let other things decide the finer details because I just can't be bothered. So usually how I decide how much I'm reading in like a session, when read comes up on my to-do list spinning wheel, yeah, it's complicated, but it works for my brain. I ask her to pick a number from like the number of chapters in the book. So in Gate of the Feral Gods, including the epilogue and the bonus story that's at the end of every hardback, I believe it was 33. No, I think it was 36 or 37. So I asked her to pick between 1 and 37, let's say, and she picked 33. So that's the threshold. And then for each reading session, for that book, I then ask her to pick a number between 1 and 33. And when I did that yesterday, she picked 25. So that means that means that I would try to read 25 chapters that day. Or, in certain situations, it depends on the book, quite honestly, I will roll that over into the next day. Like sometimes I'll try to get as far as I can, and then the next day I will just use my to-do list spinning wheel, and then if read comes up again, I will have her pick a different amount. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to roll over, and so I wanted to try to read 25 chapters before I like use my to-do list spinning wheel, just because one, I really want to read the book. And two, I had a pretty light day at work yesterday. I have a very light day at work today, and I have a very light and virtual work day tomorrow. And then Saturday I'm not working because it's Saturday. So my sort of thought process is like, okay, I have the time that like I can read the 25 chapters and then like do some things for my to-do list because I have the time. If I had like busier work days where I had less time to do things for my to-do list, I probably wouldn't have rolled over, but I did. So anyway, that's a very long-winded explanation of nothing, I think, that you guys are interested in. Whoops. So I just finished a chapter. I don't know what chapter I'm on, but I have now read like 240 pages. I'm not even halfway. I think last night I was at like 34% or 38 maybe. Dungeon Crawler Carl. I should explain. If you're watching this video and you haven't watched my previous videos or read the series, I'm so sorry. This has to be so confusing. My ADHD is very chaotic right now. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a series that follows Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, at the end of the world, pretty much. Earth is invaded and crushed by the aliens, and any survivors who so choose, they are given an option. They can stay on the surface, but there are no like constructs. Any construct, anything that can go over a human's head was smooshed. So humans could choose to remain on the surface and try to survive, but like there is that. There's no buildings or things to go over people's head. I keep saying that because like in the first book, very quickly in the first book, it's explained that like even umbrellas like smooshed. So, but they were given the option to stay on the surface or to go into this dungeon and enter into a game. And this game is for the entertainment of the rest of the universe. But the people who go into the dungeon, they're called crawlers. ADHD is intense right now and I can't talk. My brain is going much faster than my mouth can. The crawlers sort of compete and try to survive. And there are 18 levels, and the crawler, or I think crawlers, that get to level 18 can then become the rulers of Earth, the new rulers of Earth, I believe. However, I don't think any crawler has made it past level 12. No, that can't be right. 13 maybe? I don't know. They're at a certain point, nowhere close to 18, no crawler has made it. But there's something different about like this version of the game. Like there's some things going on in the background which is making this game different from all the other previous iterations of Crawler World, Dungeon Crawler World, I think is what it's called. So, but we're following Carl and Princess Donut as Princess Donut becomes like a sentient talking cat. So it's not just him with his pet, like she becomes her own character, and she's the best. Honestly, she's the best character. But they work together through these levels in the dungeon, and so the fourth book we are on level 5, which is really interesting because it's like a bubble world, and so the dungeons are divided into the crawlers are divided into these bubbles where they kind of have to work, like, they're separated-ish into, like, these 4 quadrants, but they have to work together to achieve a thing in order for them to move on to the next level. It's really interesting, but I am enjoying it. I guess the main thing, which is kind of like, this isn't spoilers at all, they ended up sort of teaming up with another person at the end of the second book. Her name is Katya, and I really like her. She's a very different element to their team, But I feel like the whole time she hasn't been like super present in this book. Like she was much more present in the previous book. And I kind of feel like she's kind of like an afterthought, which makes me sad because as much as I know that like it's Carl and Donut first, like they're the main characters, like they're who we're rooting for. But like I do like Katya and she is on their team, and so I would like her pulled in a bit more instead of just this like background support role that she's been put into. That's like my main thing, but I'm not even halfway through the book. So we'll see. But yeah, that's what I've read. I've been rambling for a really long time, so I'm going to wrap up. And I have to go to personal training. And I will check in probably tomorrow with how much more I have read today. So. I know that the last time I filmed was Thursday. I need to get better at filming over the weekend, although I do have a lot to talk about, but it's hard because like the weekend is the only time that I have to spend with Chris really because our schedules are so different. And so I don't really want to like step away for like 15 minutes to film a clip on like our one day off together, and then Sundays I work, but he doesn't, so by the time I get home in the evening, like I'm very tired and I want to hang out with him. So I don't know, I need to get better or get back to like filming in the mornings like I used to. So there's that. I am aware of that, but it's okay because with the themed vlogs I have a little bit more freedom, it feels like, at least. So I did finish reading The Gate of the Feral Gods. Stephanie and I went out, well, okay. I met up with Stephanie for coffee on Thursday for like an hour and a half because I ended up having the day off pretty much. Like all my meetings got canceled. So that was nice. We just talked and watched figure skating. I didn't read at all there. But Friday we had already planned to go to a coffee shop. So and I was working from home that day. So once I was done with work, we went out to lunch, and then we went to the independent bookstore in town because they have a coffee shop. Although apparently on Fridays, the coffee shop closes much earlier than the actual bookshop part. So we ended up just sitting in the bookshop, which felt a little awkward. But I did finish reading Gate of the Feral Gods while I was there because I read quite a bit on Thursday since I had the day off. But I will say I enjoyed it. I thought the storyline was really interesting, and I was very absorbed. My earlier complaints about Katya, you know, sort of being more in the background, like, were still there, but they were handled well. Like, that situation was handled well, although I don't like how it was resolved, but it makes sense. So, yeah, so that was fine. But otherwise, I did enjoy it. I thought it was very interesting, the decisions that Carl was making. And so I gave it 4 stars, mainly because of the Katya thing. But I'm still very much enjoying it. The series, I mean. So there's that. And then Saturday, Chris and I were like running around doing stuff, doing chores, and so I only started reading like in the evening, so I only read about like 70 pages, which is great. That's 10% of the book. I read 70 pages of The Butcher's Masquerade, which is the 5th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. That title is so hard for me to say, and I don't know why. But so I read like 10% of that because it's like 700 pages. And because it's such a long book, I feel like I'm like just like getting into like the very beginning of it instead of feeling like I've read 70 pages. I will say I'm a little annoyed at Carl because obviously I can't say much more of like details. All I can say is that they are on the 6th floor. That's about all I can say. I'm annoyed at Carl because he has team members. He has friends that are part of his group. And one of the first things that he did in this book is one of the first things he did was ignore advice, which, like, okay, fine. Although I do think he should listen to the advice because it's given by someone who's more familiar with this world, but whatever. But the big main thing that he did was he made a decision completely by himself, involved one of his teammates without telling them. And that really bothered me because they could have died. Like, they're in this massive game where, like, if they lose, they die. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. That really annoyed me. It ended up well because Carl is a lucky bastard. But so I finished like that beginning plot point, and I wasn't like so annoyed that I stopped reading, but it just coincided with like I felt a little bit of annoyance at Carl and I needed to go to sleep. So I stopped reading. I haven't read any more since. I might read more today. I have kind of a busy day. Like, I have personal training in a bit, and then I have personal training in a bit, and then I have a call with my dad, and then I have therapy at 1, and then Stephanie and I are leaving around 4 to go to Chicago to go watch Drunk Shakespeare. So, realistically, I only have like 3 hours to do stuff. And so here's what's going to happen. I'm either going to read those 3 hours, or I'm going to work on reorganizing my closet, and if that's the case, I will listen to The Count of Monte Cristo. So I will get reading done. I just don't know what form that's going to look at. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that, like, I was really hopeful that I would finish these 2 Done Your Call Carl books by last night. And it's fine that I haven't. It's fine. Because I have a plan. And I was planning on reading Les Mis for 2 weeks. So, like, moving that, like, 2-week vlog to, like, midweek is not a huge deal. It's fine. But, so there's that. So, Count of Monte Cristo. I listened to about an hour yesterday. I worked a full day yesterday, which this week, my boss was randomly in the office yesterday, so we were sort of chatting. I'm like, yeah, so I'm like back to back all day in meetings, and they're just like, oh, that sounds really tiring. Like, when's the last time you did that? Because my calendar, at least this week and for the last several weeks, I've had like breathing room between meetings. Especially this earlier in the week, I had like huge bouts of breathing room. And so I was just like, oh, I'm so tired. So, yeah, so by the time I finished work, I was just so tired. I didn't want to concentrate on more than the road. So I didn't listen to Count of Monte Cristo on my way home. I will, like I said, I will listen to it if I end up reorganizing my closet, because I'm waiting for, I ordered baskets, essentially, and I'm going to hang them in my closet and do a basket system instead of hanging, because this probably doesn't matter to anyone else, but my ADHD is like, I have gotten into a routine of folding clothes, but because of, like, I have some lower back issues, standing for that long means that I typically don't do the next step of putting the clothes away. And so I feel like, and I got this idea from How to Keep House While Drowning, which I read it in last week's vlog, 2 weeks ago? I think maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. That, like, I don't need to fold everything. Like, I have a decent amount of clothes I don't need to fold that I could just sort of toss in a basket. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, but if I organize my closet, I will listen to more of Count of Monte Cristo. And then I'm actually driving quite a bit this week. Like, I'm going to Chicago tonight, but I won't listen to the Count of Monte Cristo because I'm with a friend. But like Wednesday, I will be going to the office. Friday, I'm going to the office as well as Temple. And then Saturday, I'm actually going back to near the office for like a team building thing. And then Sunday, I'm going to the office. So I'm driving 4 days in a row. 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row, but a little bit extra than typical. So I will finish it this week. So anyway, listened to an hour yesterday. One of the major plot points of the revenge, because he's getting revenge against 3 people who landed him in prison falsely because they're jealous little men. But so this whole book has been building up him getting revenge. And one of them, the plan has been enacted. And so the revenge isn't done, but it's safe to say that this person's life is solidly like ruined. And I know what's going to happen to him. That's why I say it's not done, because I looked at the Wikipedia. So I know what's going to happen. It's not done yet, but it's like 90% there. So that was really satisfying. It also had some like reveals in there as well, which like almost made me cry, which is not safe while driving. But yeah, so I thought it was really well done. Like, I've been enjoying the Count of Monte Cristo this whole time. There were some parts that dragged a little bit, but now, like, but for the most part, there's been like a lot of action. It's been really engaging. And now that we're in the last like 10 hours and all the plans are coming to fruition, I'm very excited. So yes, I will definitely finish it this week. But that is my reading. So now I'm going to get ready for personal training, and then I will check in when I have more reading updates. Good morning. Okay, I have continued reading every day, and I want to say I'm over halfway in The Butcher's Masquerade, in the 5th Dungeon Crawler Carl book. And it's taking me longer than I expected, but it's fine. Everything's chill. My battery's about to die. I will note that while at the beginning of this book, like, Carl did something that like really bothered me, he's improved. He's gotten much better. He realized like that was a shitty thing to do, and so he agreed that he would communicate more, and he's been doing that. And I just finished a scene where something happens to Donut. It not happens to, but like Donut is upset about something. And Carl's being really sweet about it. A tiny bit impulsive, but he's doing it because he cares, and it's not actually going to happen. And if you've read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything. So, but it's very sweet, and that makes me feel a lot better about him and about how he views Donut and, you know, the rest of the people around them. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I hope to read more. Today I don't know if I will, just because I am driving back to Chicago today. Because I went to work and Temple last night, so I did like 3 hours of driving. And I'm going back to Chicago today for a team building event, and I have to leave like around 2ish. So I just don't know if I'll have time to read more of Dungeon Crawler Carl. So we will see. I had to slightly change my posting schedule because I realized with how long it's taking me to finish these 2 books that I wasn't gonna have the buffer room for my 2-week Les Mis vlog. So yeah, so my TBR is going up on Tuesday instead of Sunday, which, like, that's fine. Anyway. Since I drove so much yesterday, I have listened to more of the Count of Monte Cristo. I'm now at 96%. I have 2 hours left. And I'm driving to Chicago today, which takes more than 2 hours. So I will finish it on my way home tonight, which I'm very excited about. Partially because I want to be done. Not because I'm not enjoying it, but just because it's been 2 months. Like, literally. So, I'm excited to be done. Everything is sort of wrapping up now. All of the manipulations and everything are sort of coming to the culmination. And one of them is officially done. I'm kind of waiting for the other 2 to happen. I'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm so excited to finish it. I already know what my next audiobook is going to be because I have to go back to Chicago on Sunday for work. So yeah, but I'm just really excited. Okay, that's about it. That's all I have. Temple last night was good. That's really all I have, and my battery's about to die, so I'm gonna go and then enjoy this B-roll from my work's team building event. Okay, I have so much to talk about. So, Saturday, just trying to remember, it's not important. I know I need to talk about. So, Saturday, I drove to Chicago for a team building event. We played this, what is this place called? Like, Great Big Game Show, where you competed against another team in, like, a game show format. It was a lot of fun. I personally don't know if it was worth the 2.5 hours-ish that I drove there and back for an hour of this, like, game show thing. The reason I'm inclined to say, like, okay, yeah, that was worth it, was because I finished the Count of Monte Cristo. If I didn't finish the Count of Monte Cristo, I would probably be like, I kind of am really annoyed that that happened. But I did finish the Count of Monte Cristo, so it's fine. I've been saying for 2 months now, because that's how long it's taken me to finish the audiobook, that I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of stuff going on. I really liked seeing the Count of Monte Cristo's growth and his relationships with people and how they developed and everything. And I don't want to go too far into it because I really think this is a really fun book to sort of go in blind. Like, the only thing I really knew was that it was about revenge. And that's it. That's all I knew. So I don't want to, like, talk too much about, like, what happened, especially not at the end. But I really liked it. I liked how it wrapped up. I feel like there were some things that the Count could have been maybe, like, a little bit more transparent about. Like, he doesn't necessarily need to manipulate his friends, and even though it was a positive manipulation, I don't feel like that was necessary. So, so there's that. But I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And so that was Saturday, and then, so when I got back from Chicago, I went with Chris to our friend's house. They were watching a basketball game, so I brought the 5th book of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I definitely remember the name of. The Butcher's Masquerade. There we go. So I brought that with me to read while they were watching the basketball game. And I read quite a bit. But then yesterday, Sunday, went to work, was very busy. And then I got home at like 6, and Chris was actually working on Sunday covering for someone, so that meant that I was home alone. I'm like, all right, great, well, I want to get started on the next vlog, so I need to finish this book. So I will read and finish it, and once I do, I'll like cook dinner and everything. Because I had like 200 pages left, and I honestly would have finished it before Chris got home, except he had told me he'd be home at like 9:30 and he got home at like 8:50. So I'm like, if you had come home when you said you were going to be home, I would have already been finished with the book. I really enjoyed it. This was a great reading week. Or 2 weeks, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt like, as much as I was annoyed at Carl at the beginning, he really redeemed himself. He really showed a lot of care and compassion to the other crawlers. You know, he's realizing that like he's not the only person around. So yeah, I thought it was really well done. Really enjoyed it. There were some like times where I felt like it was like dragging like maybe a little bit, but for the most part I really did have a good time. I don't know when I'll read the 6th book. But that's something for me to look forward to. And I'm very intrigued because it wasn't a cliffhanger. Doesn't end in cliffhangers. But there is a development at the very end that has an impact on at least the next book. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know what's gonna happen there, and I'm worried. But that's what I got. So I gave The Witch of Masquerade 4.5 stars. And yeah, it was really good. Part of me was like a little annoyed, not at the book, but at myself, because I was like, why is this taking me so long? Like normally like I really just like breeze through these Dungeon Crawler Carl books. It's a 700-page book, like, and there were some days I was reading less than 100 pages just because of like work and all this other stuff. So like it makes total sense why it would take me like a little over a week to read 700 pages. And so like I felt annoyed at myself because I felt like I was like, my enjoyment of the book wasn't being reflected in like the pages, but also like I have other parts of my life that that I have to attend to. So yeah, like 9 days to read 700 pages, like that's not bad. But with that, we're wrapping up the vlog. Yeah, this was a fun week. Even though like this was a really fun week. I got to read more Dungeon Crawler Carl. I liked reading both books back to back. I'm bummed that it's gonna be probably at least 2 weeks before I read the next one, if not more. But I also finally finished Count of Monte Cristo. So like overall, this like vlog of like this like week and a half that it encompasses, or is it a week? Yeah, week and a half, almost 2 weeks. But like this was very successful. I had a really good time. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave me a comment if you're reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl books as well, or if you already have, and give me some hints of like what to look forward to. But otherwise, subscribe and click the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you in the next vlog. Bye.